I have signed a minor contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers. It was a very difficult decision, but I will do my best to make it the right decision when I look back after my baseball career. Roki Sasaki. Probably the least shocking news I can recall. To me, this is the death, taxes, Roki Sasaki to the Dodgers. It all makes sense.
Death, taxes, and a Japanese superstar going to the Dodgers. So there you go.
So with the baseball news, we do have a special guest, our beloved Matthias Alban Kurosaki from Lost Above Replacement and Mesmerized and a variety of other places. How's it going, Mac?
It's going all right.
Great to hear. Of course, Jack, as the resident Dodgers fan, you will get to employ Roki Sasaki for the next 6 years. I'm just going to make the assumption that it's a 6-year,
He said minor deal in the translation. I don't know if that was just like a translation having a problem, or if it actually is like only like a 3, 4, 5 year deal, something like that.
I think technically it has to be because he was an international free agent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was saying this for a while, but if he'd waited until he was 25, he probably could have gotten like an extra $200 million. But technically, yes, he's only signing a minor league deal.
Okay.
Yes, well, is this so this is the closest thing is the Ohtani original deal with the Angels that he becomes. Just think of him like coming up from AAA, basically. So he'll be a Rookie of the Year eligible. Of course, Yamamoto was Rookie of the Year eligible last year, but he won't be free agent eligible until 2030. So 2031, which is a fake year, by the way. But yeah, so the 6 years of service time, then he becomes a regular free agent, just like you and me, just like Garrett Cole was a couple years ago, just like Ohtani was last offseason. So this was an international bonus pool signing too. So this isn't like a case of the Dodgers are giving him $700 million or $300 million. This is just every team is within this same ballpark of bonus pool money. So the Guardians could have signed him, could have given him a competitive offer as opposed to the, $300 million, $500 million, $700 million, et cetera, et cetera. So, Jack, I want your grade for the Roki Sasaki signing A to F.
Well, I think I need to know the money first, but being a Dodgers fan and like kind of knowing that this whole thing was coming, like it was pretty hard. It was pretty hard to just like see a world where he didn't sign with the Dodgers. Like he probably just would have like pulled a curve on everybody and went to the Angels or something like that.
Yeah.
No, this is an A signing. I don't know how you could say anything else other than an A signing. Like this is like we were talking before the show about how the Dodgers rotation is now like you have 6 guys who are like top 10 in baseball or something like that. It's ridiculous. And like Ohtani's going to be pitching, probably not right at the start of the year, but later on he will be pitching. Yamamoto, he's kicking ass. Kershaw will come back at some point mid-season. So I mean, it's just it falls perfectly in line with Andrew Friedman and what he said that his philosophy going into the season was we want to attack the offseason to the point where we don't have to have another trade deadline where we have to completely like go all into the trade deadline just to make sure we don't collapse in October. Like they want to have a team that is ready to compete now and they don't have to build on later. So this is perfect for the Dodgers.
Yep. I'm going to pull up their depth chart right now. Mac, what's your grade? A through F.
I mean, I have a hard time not giving this an A. I mean, it's, I will say I have concerns about Sasaki just because he's never thrown more than 130 innings in a season. And he has had 2 lengthy stints on the injured list the last 2 years. So they're definitely like, in terms of his health, there are some red flags to him. And, he's only 23. So, I don't know if, right away you can expect him to be like, a world beater in the majors. But, I mean, he's a stud, really. I don't understand how the Dodgers keep doing this. This morning, it seemed like maybe the Blue Jays had a chance because they traded for $2 million worth of bonus pool money. But it feels like him going to the Dodgers was a foregone conclusion basically all season, ever since he said that he wanted to head to the majors this year. Now you got to wonder, Are they going to get Murakami next year? Are they going to get are they just going to sign every big time free agent that comes out of Japan or Korea? I mean, they got Hae-Sung Kim this offseason too. I will say their rotation is risky. A lot of guys they have a lot of guys who, if they pitch a full season, they will make for like the greatest rotation we've ever seen. But will they pitch a full season? A lot of guys, last year they had to go get Jack Flaherty because they just needed arms. They were throwing a lot of bullpen games in the postseason, even in the World Series. So I'm curious to see if all these guys stay healthy, it will be a sight to behold. If not, well, we might be seeing what we saw last year. They won the World Series anyway.
Yeah, and this is a case of, last year the Dodgers were just annihilated with injuries, and like the pitching list here, you still have Sheehan on the injured list, Gavin Stone, River Ryan, Kyle Hurt, ironic, Brusdar Graterol. It's just a load of injuries, and they overcame it when the offense is as good as it is, and you have Ohtani, and you have Betts, and you have Freeman, and you have Will Smith, and you have Teoscar Hernandez doing his thing. You had playoff Kike, Gavin Lux, who's now a Red, but he contributed heavily to the World Series run, and now you enter the season, air quotes, because Ohtani might not be ready for opening day, but you enter the season with 5 bona fide aces potentially. Blake Snell to me is a clear top 5 pitcher in the sport, as we have seen on the diamond. Then the other 4 guys, Yamamoto was the number 1 signing last offseason. Then Sasaki's the number 1 signing this offseason. You bring in and you've brought in Glasnow through trade. And by the way, Shohei Ohtani is an awesome pitcher. And I thought for a while he was underrated as a pitcher, a little overrated as a hitter. Now he's one of the best hitters on the planet. So that conversation's pointless. But like, you might have, I don't know, the 2nd best, 4th best, 8th best, 9th best, 10th best pitchers in the world at any given moment. And that's just absurd in one rotation. And at Dodgers Stadium, like one of the best pitching environments in baseball, this is going to be bananas. Just draft every single Dodger in fantasy this year. They're going to be awesome. They're not going to allow many runs. And it's really the Dodgers versus the field at this point, if you're talking World Series odds.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I still think it's a risky rotation. It's a risky roster. It's obviously a very pricey roster. But I mean, you go into next year, they're already the reigning champions. And at this point, are you picking the Dodgers or are you picking the field? Because it felt like for a while, you always pick the field because the Dodgers would collapse. But this year, they didn't collapse. So what happens now? Is it the field? I have a hard time thinking of who could beat them. And I think the National League is very tough. So if someone's going to beat them, it's going to come from the National League. But I mean, I think, there's the Mets, there's the Braves, the Diamondbacks, even maybe. They're all legitimate contenders. The Padres were really good last year. I thought the Padres were going to beat them last year. But I have a hard time picking the field here. And I mean, it's hard to pick against the Dodgers right now.
Yeah, it's tough with like 30 MLB teams, right? 162 game season. You never know, right? The Braves last year had a 100 win projection. Projections never do that. And they won 88 games and made it on the last day of the season, the last game of the season, that Monday. But yeah, the Dodgers are 3-1 to win the World Series. That doesn't happen in baseball. These teams are all clustered, 6-1 usually is the best. Like the Astros year after year were 6-1 or 8-1, or they're 17-1 this year. And your secondary favorites are in that 7-12 range. Then you have the 20s and 30s and so on. The Dodgers are 3-1. That means the sports books are giving them about a 25% chance to win the World Series. That just
before the season has even started. Before training camp has even started.
Yeah, no games have been played. We don't even know if Ohtani's pitching to start the year. We've never seen Roki Sasaki pitch a big league game. Yamamoto has never pitched a full season. Tyler Glasnow has never pitched a full season. Blake Snell was not good for half of a season last year. So.
Then he was like the best pitcher in baseball down the stretch.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He and Paul Skeens.
People go on runs in baseball, but people can be really, really streaky. Like Yamamoto too. Like he didn't have the best start ever. Like his first game, what was it, like double digits runs
they
allowed or something like
7
that.
earned runs to
I
the
think
Padres.
I think it was only one inning. I think he gave up only five runs, but it was
he didn't
in one
last
inning.
really long at all. So, it that sort of thing can happen too. Like I expect there to be some kind of growing pain with Sasaki coming to the MLB for the first time, but you know, if he plays worth his contract, or if he plays like up to the hype, I should say, then I think the Dodgers are just like, how can you pick against them right now? That rotation.
Also, I will say they're definitely a candidate for a 6-man rotation too. I mean, you have Sasaki and Yamamoto, both guys who in NPB you pitch once a week. So Yamamoto might be a little more adjusted to pitching twice a week just because he spent a year in the majors right now. But I know like that's what the Mets did with Kodai Senga. They for a while were trying to use him just once a week, and then later in the year in 23 they started using him more than once a week on regular rest. The one thing I will say is that history isn't really on the Dodgers' side here.
You don't need to tell me that twice.
Baseball has a lot of parity. You know, there hasn't been a repeat champion since the Yankees from 98 to 2000, but some people are almost wondering, is this one of the moves that is going to ruin baseball's parity? Because we saw this, maybe this isn't the greatest example, but in the NBA, you know, when the Warriors got Kevin Durant, you know, all of a sudden, you know, the NBA when the Heat signed LeBron James, all of a sudden the NBA had no parity. It was the Heat winning, then it was the Warriors winning every year. Now we've sort of entered a stretch in the NBA with some parity, but before then, with the super teams, they were hard to stop. Obviously, baseball, completely different sport, way longer of a season. Anything can happen. But I mean, maybe the Dodgers break the streak here. Maybe they're the first team since the Yankees three-peat.
That would be nice. I think LA would really, really enjoy that because they waited a really long time to just have a parade in the first place. They won in 2020, but that was like mid-pandemic. Everybody was locked down. They didn't have a parade. And then everybody got to let all the emotions out at the parade last year. Like you saw Clayton Kershaw. He said he didn't have anything to do with the championship. I don't say that's true because he pitched a few games, but he was emotional because he didn't get that experience in 2020, and he finally got to have that, and the city was like overwhelmed with emotion, finally getting to have a real parade for the first time in as long as it was. So yeah, I think LA would enjoy that very much. The Dodgers did break that streak and repeat. I will say too, get rid of the Dodgers are ruining baseball thing. Stop it. It's the owners who are trying to be cheap, who are not spending as much as they have on their rosters. There are teams with higher payrolls that aren't winning as much, or there are like owners that are like worth more, have more money, that, you know, they have the money to be paying their players this kind of money, but they just don't. And that sort of thing is a big reason. Like if more teams really were like invested into winning this frequently as the Dodgers are, it could be other teams in the mix for these guys. That's the thing. You said, the Dodgers had to sign him to a minor deal. They had to sign Sasaki to a minor deal, but he chose to sign here anyway, not because of the money, but because of the culture and the winning culture that this team has. Yeah,
and you look at it, and I would agree with the Dodgers ruining baseball shtick if they were actually ruining baseball, right? And even the Astros went to all these ALCSs in a row. They went to the World Series 4 times. They won the World Series twice. Were any of us saying they ruined baseball with their on-field product, not the whole cheating stuff? That's above pay grade. But were we saying or were we saying the Astros from a winning perspective were ruining baseball? No, and they won more than the Dodgers, and they have won more than the Dodgers, or have won equally as much as the Dodgers now with the 2 World Series rings. So I get the pushback, and I agree, Jack, that teams need to spend more money, whether that's instituting a floor or instituting a cap, or just there's teams like Pittsburgh, the Athletics, Cleveland. They are okay with the bottom line being green and not having the best product on the field. Now, Cleveland will generally try, but they really try to cheap out on it, and they were blessed with a superstar on a cheaper deal in Jose Ramirez. But like Pittsburgh has Paul Skeens and a bevy of exciting players. O'Neal Cruz is exciting, and Key Brian Hayes is exciting, and Brian Reynolds has his moments, right? And they have some guys on
Jared
the farm.
Jones.
Yeah, Jared Jones
Keller
is nice, and they've one of the top, as far as I can remember, they have one of the top pitching prospects coming up. But is it Bubba Chandler?
Chandler's supposed to be really good. Yeah.
So you have this super exciting team, and Bob Nutting's like, I'm not going to spend any money. They're going to win like 75 games. I'm going to get 81 gate receipts. It'll be fine. We'll be in the green. It's fine. Like, go try to win, right? And that's just some owners treat baseball like a business, and that's fine. It is a business for them. I get it, but if you want the sport to be the best, teams should be trying to win baseball games.
Yeah, and also some teams maybe someone can try to step up and stop the Dodgers. I mean, like the Yankees, I remember the Yankees before the 2009 season when they got CC Sabathia and Mark Teixeira in the same offseason, and AJ Burnett and Nick Swisher. But, they got, I think, the two top free agents on the market that offseason. And it feels like the Dodgers are doing this nearly every offseason. If they're not getting the top free agents, they're getting the top trade chips. So, I mean, I'm not saying... I think the tough part is also that because the Dodgers have such a track record of winning these days, I mean, they've been in the playoffs every year the last dozen years. But some team, I'm hoping some team is able to step up and, maybe not every year the top free agents go to the same team. It doesn't necessarily mean Dodgers. I mean, but, I wouldn't say necessarily the Dodgers are ruining baseball. I think, every owner to a certain extent is able to spend. I'm not saying they need to spend like drunken sailors necessarily, but I'd like to see more teams around the league, even the smaller markets, make a bit more of an effort to sign some of the top guys.
Listen, the deferred money thing, I'm almost certain that there's deferred money here, but
I don't know. Actually, I don't know if they can defer any of it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was going to make a joke about the deferred money, but I don't know if they can defer on a minor deal.
No.
But
they'll defer the other contracts though.
Exactly. They have to, like, everybody has been.
They have over $1 billion in deferments.
But I'm just saying there is that loophole is there for everybody. Any team can do that. Don't be mad that the Dodgers are the only ones right now that are actively trying to do it. So.
And I think the National League has, some teams that can compete with the Dodgers. You look at the Braves, who obviously had a miserable offensive season last year, but the pitching staff, I think, is excellent. The bullpen was excellent last year. And the Mets, you just went out and added Juan Soto. I think they can add some more on the pitching side. And maybe Pete Alonso comes back and you improve at third base with Vientos moving back over there and Alonso at first. And the Braves / Mets, I think, can potentially beat the Dodgers in a 7-game series. The Diamondbacks added Corbin Burns. They have a nice rotation. They were one of the best offenses in baseball last year.
They were the best offense in baseball, I believe.
Yeah. And,
in the regular season.
Yeah. And if you have a little bit of better bullpen during the regular season and you win one extra game, right? And they win 89 games and they could have made a run. San Diego is really talented too. I don't know how they're going to keep that bullpen intact.
I don't know what the Padres are going to do because it feels like they put all their eggs in the Sasaki basket and it didn't work out for them obviously now. Yeah. I'm not saying they're screwed because there's pieces there, but the ownership feud happening there too. It's just like, I don't really know what to expect out of the Padres, but they always play the Dodgers hard. So I'm still going to keep an eye on them.
Yeah,
shout out to my guy Falco in the chat. I messaged him saying that we were live and he showed up. So
absolutely, shout out to Falco. Yeah, I think it's important that the free agents are spread around. It's growing up. It was they always go to the Yankees, and like Max said, it was CC to the Yankees and Teixeira to the Yankees, and A-Rod was a trade, but it's like every great player felt like they were on the Yankees, and now it's a little bit more even, and now it's getting to be a little Dodger centric at times. But
I still think it is a bit spread out though. Like Soto to the Mets, like you said. A couple of names that I'm forgetting about off the top of my head.
With baseball, you do have a little bit of a pooling effect to the LAs and the New Yorks and the Chicagos when they're halfway decent at least. I think that's just like just how geography works and just how like the economy of baseball works. That bigger markets will attract these bigger stars, and like Atlanta is not the biggest market, and your stars are just about all homegrown, really. The Mets have made some splashes in free agency. Then they have the homegrown guys like Vientos and Nimmo. The Yankees, of course, Judge is homegrown, but you bring in a Max Fried. You traded for Soto last year. You can you signed Bellinger. Did they sign Bellinger?
Traded Bellinger.
Traded for Bellinger. So you're making these moves, and it ends up being a little top heavy at times. But 162 game season, you have to win 11 plus playoff games. I think it'll be fine. Even if the Dodgers are a 20% chance to win the World Series, there's an 80% chance they don't. There's a reasonable chance they lose Game 7 to the Mets or the Braves or the Padres or the Phillies or
stupid things happen in games too that can change the course of the way the games are played. Like we realistically had a shot at seeing a Game 6 in the World Series this year, and then the Mets decided to, or not the Mets, the Yankees decided to commit error after error after error after error. So
yeah, I will say my one last thing on this is that boy, the Blue Jays, man. I apologize to any Blue Jays fans if you are watching.
Brutal.
Runner-ups. I don't even know if they were runner-ups for Ohtani necessarily, but they were in it for Ohtani.
By a plane.
Yeah, the plane situation. They were in on Soto, didn't get Soto. They were in on Sasaki, didn't get Sasaki. The one free agent they've signed, Jeff Hoffman. They were like third place for Hoffman. He failed 2 physicals, and that's how they signed him. Maybe one of these days the Blue Jays will strike gold. Maybe it'll be Pete Alonso this offseason. Maybe they'll finally extend Vladimir Guerrero Jr. But apologies to any Blue Jays fans listening, because this I do feel bad that they even cleared international bonus pool money and took on $13 million of Miles Straw's contract.
Oh God.
To be the runner-ups again. One day, Blue Jays fans.
All right, before you hop off, Mac, who is the best bridesmaid in baseball? Is it the Giants or the Blue Jays?
Right now, it's got to be the Blue Jays. I don't quite get the Giants.
Arson Judge?
Okay, Judge was a one-time thing, though. That's a thing.
Carlos Correa. Oh, that was an injury thing, but
Correa failed 2 physicals too. That's the thing, is that I can't really blame them for Correa. Judge, I don't know what happened there. And apparently the Padres offered even more money, but I can't.
Judge, man.
I mean, the Blue Jays it's the third time.
Yeah, I mean, and the Padres have been at times have been like the second. They were the second option, or the 2B, I guess, was Sasaki. They were in that final group of 3. The Cubs sometimes are this. They're always in these international discussions, but outside of Seiya Suzuki, they're never winning these discussions.
Yeah.
The Giants did get Young Lee last year, though.
Yeah,
the Giants.
Padres were in on Trey Turner and Aaron Judge the one off season, but really, I don't think they have quite the reputation right now that Toronto does.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure having you on there, Max.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, have a good one.
So you can get more of Max content at LAR_baseball. Metsmerized. I don't know their socials, but
at Metsmerized.
He writes a lot for Metsmerized. So big Mets fan. And then we're gonna talk about Ravens Steelers, and Mac can hop off before we do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah.
Have a nice one.
Later, Mac.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of the day. I'm not going to talk too long about this because the PTSD levels will be high, but I'm reminded of the day that behind the scenes at U Stadium when Arson Judge to Yankees or to Giants was tweeted.
No.
We collapsed.
No, that probably was the worst. Well, maybe not the worst day at U Stadium.
I think it was the worst day.
That was pretty bad, though.
It was pretty bad.
Push, Judge, settle the takes. I'm like, okay. Why did you settle those takes, right? Yeah, that was. We have changed our policies since.
Yeah,
then,
we have significantly changed the way we do things behind the scenes there now. So, that kind of mess will not happen again. Thankfully, hopefully, us the people who do it in the future too are on top of it. But I'm sure they will. But yeah, no, that was just I was just I'm glad that we can like look back and laugh about it now. But yeah.
Oh man, I was home from college too. It was like, whoa, pump the brakes. Oh man. Alrighty. NFL playoffs are happening. The first round is in the books. There are 6 games that happened. Not all of them were good. I would only say one of them was particularly good.
I had fun watching one of them, but I wouldn't call it.
I had a lot of fun watching
objectively.
I had a lot of fun. Oh man, that was all right, Jack. The best drive in Rams history is
The opening drive of the wild card game, or no, in Rams history, like
Yes.
all-time Rams
yes,
history.
Rams history.
Probably the Super Bowl drive.
Okay, that's a fair one. That's a valid one. So NFL wildcard from an objective standpoint had many blowouts, but man, those last two games, yes, as a Rams fan, that last game was fun. Yeah, I mean, you sacked Darnold 9 times.
9 times.
Jared Verse went full WWE. Jack, I'm surprised you didn't actually pull up he's like,
I got the belt.
oh, okay. But Jared Verse, and he didn't get penalized for it, and the Rams are hyping it up, and the NFL is hyping it up. It's like, that is 1,000% like illegal. That has to be illegal, right?
Top rope jump onto the quarterback after he's already down. That
has to be like unnecessary roughness or personal. That has to be something. But yeah,
I know we're going to talk about things in that game that didn't get called. The first, we're going to talk about.
This is a forward pass, by the way.
Yeah. The forward pass incident. It was a forward pass. The ball was moving forward the whole time. You could see him make a slight effort to get it out. I don't know if I agree with the no intentional grounding call there, but it wouldn't have really affected the final score, at least if you look at it in a vacuum. But if you look at it like, it could have given the Vikings the momentum they needed to get right back into the game. But judging by the way the Rams defense was playing the whole night, I don't really think the Vikings were winning that one either way. I also, while we're talking about this game, would like to take a moment to shout out the Arizona Cardinals. The game, for those of you who do not know, had to get moved to State Farm Stadium. There have been fires going on in LA. Shout out to the LA Fire Department. Shout out to everybody, the first responders who are working their asses off to get these put out. The game had to get moved due to the wildfire concerns, and the generosity that the Cardinals organization showed the Rams was incredible. They were on top of it and like saying, yep, you can use our practice facility. You can use our stadium. We'll even turn our stadium shops into Rams stops. We'll paint the field for you to look like the Rams field. Just everything that they did to make the Rams feel like they were at home. The Rams even like said, we're going to use the away locker room so it's as comfortable as possible, even though they were the designated home team. So crazy stuff, but you could definitely tell like the city of LA was like really, I felt similar vibes to the Chiefs game in 2018, where like the city definitely felt pretty united behind that team, and the team was motivated to play for their city, and hopefully that motivation will carry over to next week. The Eagles are no easy task by any means. We've already seen them kick our asses once this year. And I've had experience on Twitter. Their fans don't shut up, period.
Yeah.
So it'll be tough. I think when we move into the wild card or to the divisional talk, I'll talk about how the Rams can maybe win that game, but I don't expect them to, but we'll see. I'm not ruling it out. But great game for the Rams overall. Good to see Stafford have a good night for the most part. They didn't score a whole lot in the second half, but that was one of those games where their offense already like got off to a hot start. You got the Kyron Williams automatic touchdown. Puka Nacua was kicking ass. Cooper Kupp, I think, is declining slightly. That's not something I want to talk about in the immediate moment, but decline is definitely there.
Okay, I'm sure you saw it. I'm gonna point out a wild stat. Cooper Kupp, Triple Crown winner, All-Pro, Super Bowl MVP. He has as many 1,000-yard seasons as Kenny Golladay.
I don't remember seeing that stat.
Well, they both have 2. And Golladay hasn't been relevant since 2019.
Yeah.
So, Cooper Kupp's production, very strange. It's a little bit of the inverted Mike Evans. And that Evans is 1,000 yards every year, but never like peak. But then Cooper Kupp had arguably the greatest season. I've argued on this show the greatest offensive season by a non-quarterback in the history of the sport.
I agree. I think it's it is. And then
maybe I'm missing like a running back that was MVP and won the Super Bowl, like Terrell Davis, 2,000 yards, Super Bowl MVP. Were those even in the same season? I gotta look that up now.
I think the thing about Cooper Kupp, though, and I'm not trying to like make an excuse or anything, but I will say that the injuries definitely have been a bit of an issue too, because he's been dealing with like the hamstring problems cost him a bunch of games last year, and then I think the same one got re-aggravated in training camp this year, and he tried to play on it in Detroit, hurt it again. He tried to play on it again in Arizona, hurt it again, and had to go on IR. So that obviously is a problem when you're having that many issues with your leg, and then your separation is just getting worse. It hurts a little bit, but I do think the Rams have an explosive rookie. Potential explosive rookie in Jordan Whittington. I thought he showed his stuff in the Week 18 game against Seattle, and I thought that he's been very good on special teams this year too. So Whittington, I think the Rams need to give a bit of a better look at, and I don't know if that's going to come against Philadelphia, especially because I hear it's supposed to snow in Philly for that game, so the passing might not be great. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot. Yeah, Falco, you're right. I think it was the ankle. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot in terms of like I'm not complaining about the Rams beating the Vikings 27-9. I'm not complaining about a performance where the defense got 9 sacks. Aaron Donald was in attendance to watch that game, and it's like he doesn't need to be on the field anymore. He can rest easy knowing that the Rams pass rush is in good hands.
Yeah, and I'm surprised you didn't pull up the clip of me saying I was out on the Rams defense. They've turned it around.
I said I was going to do that, and I didn't do it. I should have done it.
Yes, I
survived.
But yeah, Jared Verse balling out, Braden Fisk balling out, and both those guys are rookies, man. And
also, one last point, then we can move on. Akella Witherspoon, baller. Kobe Durant, baller. Those two are the best Rams cornerbacks right now. They need to be the top 2 for pretty much the whole postseason.
Fair.
Those are the guys right now.
We can go backwards through the games. We talked a lot about the Monday night game. Let's talk about the Sunday night game. Commanders at Bucks, rematch from week 1. That was my survivor pick. Week 1, by the way, got it right. We are not going to talk about week 3, though. The Commanders, the doink to send them through. Zane Gonzalez, Mr. OCD himself, bangs home the game winner. Jaden Daniels is like 17-0 in these game-winning drive situations. He's actually generational. Tough scenes for Baker Mayfield and company. You thought you had the stop. You got the stop, and then you immediately botch a handoff. Washington scores. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch much of that game.
I caught a chunk of it. I caught the ending of it. That I felt a roller coaster of emotions watching that game. I was rooting for the Bucks because I don't hate Washington at all. Don't get me wrong. Like, Washington is not a hateable team, but if the Bucks won, then the Rams would have gone to Detroit this weekend. And I feel like Detroit, they would have stood a lot more of a chance against than Philadelphia, which is a bit ironic because Detroit's the 1 seed.
Yeah.
But yeah, just it's one of those moments where it's like, oh, like you don't know how to feel because of the doink. It's like, I don't know. It's one of those things where it just like, it's like the Hail Mary almost in a way where it's like you can't really believe what just happened, but it's like this is for the Commanders. It did happen, and like for the Commanders, they're like their fans right now are being taken on like a ridiculous ride with the new ownership and with everything working out the way it has. Like this doesn't happen without the ownership change, I should say.
Right, right, and this is June 2023, the summer of 2023. You move from the previous owner. Now you're owned by Josh Harris, and Josh Harris has his own baggage. He's the owner of the 76ers, of course. And it's just like, okay, it's better than the previous guy, but how good is it going to be? 2023, mediocre year, or not a good year. You end up with the number 2 draft pick. It's like, okay, great. Then you draft Jaden Daniels. Then you bring in Dan Quinn, and you start moving the needle, and you win these games early. You get the Hail Mary play, and it's like, this is like a great offense. Now the defense has its questions. We will discuss, but okay, they can move it. McLaurin and B-Rob and Austin Eckler, and they can kind of ball out, and you keep it moving. It's like, okay, Jaden, I see you. He's probably going to win Rookie of the Year, and the Commanders. This is the first time they have won a playoff game since I've been a football fan. Now, granted, I missed that by a year, but still. First time since
that's like me like saying that I was born the year the Rams won their Super Bowl, but I was I was born in the November of that season, so I was like, I'm like not really old enough to count it.
Unfortunately, I was born 2 months after the Ravens' first Super Bowl. So.
Unfortunately,
Narrowly missed it.
At least you did witness one, though. I think that's the important thing.
Yes.
Like, I think I was
we were
like,
in New Orleans.
This is me being like, I'm glad that I was old enough to remember the Kings winning their first Stanley Cup, because it happened when I was 12 years old.
There you go.
But yeah, the Commanders, I feel like, have the kind of offense, like, even if their defense isn't playing up to par as often as they should, Funko, like you said, ice in there, but like you saw the game against Philadelphia where they had like 5 turnovers, I think, and they still won the game on a last-minute touchdown.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. The offense has the capability to do that. They can outscore their problems, and I feel like that is like, that's a scary team. It's hard to kill a team like that whose offense is good enough to keep them in the game no matter what they're up against in that. And like you saw with the Rams Bills earlier this year too. The Rams defense allowed 42 points, but the offense was still good enough to keep them in front for the majority of that game. So
yeah, and I think we can talk about a little bit about the Detroit game moving forward, and comparing Washington to Houston, for example, these big underdogs, right? These 8+ point underdogs. Houston's here on their defense, Washington's here on their offense, and like Washington to me has a fighter's chance against Detroit. Like they can score, and Detroit can't defend anything. Oh, Houston on the other hand, yeah, the defense is great, but Mahomes is going to get his, right, and Kelsey's going to get his in the playoffs, and Pacheco's back, Marquise Brown is back. They're going to get theirs. So your defense is like limited. The Chiefs are going to score 17 points, right? You have to stop them from scoring more than 17. With the Detroit-Washington thing, if Jaden Daniels gets the ball, 7 points are probably going up on the board. And if not 7, then 3, right? And Washington's played really aggressively. They didn't fail a 4th down until the Pittsburgh game. They started like 11 for 11, something ridiculous. They always seem to convert the 2-point conversions. They're really solid on 3rd down. And having Jaden is such a difference maker. You know, I've said it for years with Lamar that the special thing about Lamar is not the yardage total that ends up in the stats. It's the yard here or yard there, or the extra couple yards here that turn 3rd and 2s. No, you don't have to bring out your best 3rd down play. It's a 1st down. You got 2 extra yards on a random scramble earlier in the drive, or it's, you know, instead of a 10-yard sack, it's getting the ball out of bounds or getting the ball back to the line of scrimmage. And those little things that Jaden does, now he takes some gargantuan hits, so please slide. But yeah, Jaden does these little things around the edge, and I think Washington has a shot. On the other hand, I think Houston, they need the best defensive performance in the history of the franchise if they want to keep it within 10 points.
I can't believe I picked the Chargers to win that game. I need to stop drinking their Kool-Aid, because it feels like every time I cave and drink the Chargers Kool-Aid for at least a game. Granted, I did say too, like, I think they win this game, but then they lose next week, because
and that's the kind of game the Chargers lose. It is. They were favorites. Houston was decrepit. The last time Houston played playoff teams, they played the Ravens, or they played the Chiefs and then the Ravens in that little quartet of Christmassy games. Right, they got annihilated by the Chiefs, and the Ravens walked into their house, Beyonce's house. Beyonce sang the national anthem, or did the halftime show. Walked into their house, put their feet up, and said, "Bring me a sandwich," to quote Chris Broussard. That was the last that we saw the Texans play 2 good teams back to back. They got wrecked. Then they play the Chargers. Justin Herbert throws 4 interceptions. Not all of them were his fault, but 4 interceptions. A 13 QBR. It's a miserable game.
You did too. Don't. You're not. I'm not alone in this.
Oh, I'm
pretty sure you did too.
I did too.
But yeah, no. The Texans have been questionable all year, and the Chargers defense, to a degree, has been pretty stout this season too.
Yeah, for like 9 weeks, they had the number 1 scoring, or take that back. They had like a top 10 scoring defense of the last 25 years by scoring percentage of scoring drives. So the 2019 Patriots were like 6% for the whole season, which was absurd. Then there's a bunch of Patriots defenses, and then the like 08 Steelers, 06 Ravens, 2013 Seahawks, those sorts of teams. And then the 24 Chargers. Haha, we're here. Then they played the Chiefs again. They played They played Baltimore. They played a couple better offenses, but that's a pretty good Chargers defense. And I wouldn't say Houston took it to them offensively. They were certainly got aided by a couple short fields. You had a pick six in there.
Yeah, I feel like this game was more the Chargers just falling over their own faces again than it was the Texans being good. I'm not trying to discredit the Texans at all because they have capabilities to be good. And I think they're getting some injured players back against Kansas City too, so that'll help.
Yeah, Alshire's back. He missed. I think he missed both the Chiefs game and the Ravens game.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think this was just yet another case. Add it to the long list of the Chargers falling over their own faces. It's brutal. Like, if you were to point out a team that should just like completely burn it down, relocate, start over, etc., that would be that.
Yeah, that's just tough, man. And Herbert, I mean, if we want, we can have the Herbert conversation now, but Herbert was in this conversation for being the fifth best quarterback in football behind Mahomes, Lamar, Allen, Burrow. That four is locked and loaded. I don't care how you order them. Those are the top four. Then five, I defaulted to Justin Herbert. I'll be the first to admit. You have Jaden, you have Hurts, you have Stroud, I guess. You have Jordan Love during Toyotathon. You have this just cluster of quarterback. Matt Stafford can be thrown in there. And Herbert, it's like, okay, he had a good season. He didn't turn the ball over. He wasn't quite as spectacular as he had been, but he took out some of the stupid. Right? He has a really good connection with Ladd McConkey, and it's like, okay, you can see it. And then you're talking yourself into this playoff game. And you're saying, okay, Houston, they don't have much of an offense with no Diggs. Stroud apparently needs both elite receivers, and you're figuring it out, and you're going to beat Houston. And you have a Chiefs game. It's divisional game. Maybe Herbert gets a miracle run to the AFC title game, and heck, I think he could outplay Lamar or outplay Josh Allen in a game. Well, who knows, right? Then you poop your pants in the 4:30 slot. This isn't like prime time. This is a 4:30 Saturday slot against the Texans. Why are you pulling an Andy Dalton? Justin Herbert has thrown more interceptions in 2025 than he did in 2024. He has played one game in 2025. Well, two, but one really.
Yeah, I feel he did this too. I feel like against the Jaguars the other year too.
Lawrence threw for 4 interceptions.
Okay, well, but
it was perhaps more damning that Herbert got outplayed by a guy that threw 4 interceptions.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Is like he still like ended up out like the offense not scoring is a reason why the defense blows leads too. Like,
and it's like the Texans earlier in the season when they picked Goff off 5 times and still lost.
Yeah,
it says a lot about your organization that you lost a game you had 5 interceptions. It says a lot about Herbert that he got outplayed in a game his opponent threw 4 picks.
Yeah, I think that like the thing about big comebacks like that too is it's both the offense falling apart and the defense falling apart too. Like, but like if the Chargers defense totally collapses, and then they're allowing like points after points, but then the Chargers offense just stays on, and like Herbert's still dealing, and they're still scoring points. Then they can keep the game out of reach.
Right. This isn't like an NBA situation that one team just hits a bunch of threes. You can keep hitting layups, but their threes are gonna count. But if you score, then you're keeping pace with what they're doing. This is the Bills-Rams game, for example.
Yeah, but when you suck on defense, or on offense, like when the offense falls apart and they don't widen the gap, when the gap gets smaller, that's how comebacks happen.
Absolutely.
And it's just like the same. It feels like just kind of in a way more of the same. Granted, no comeback this time, but yeah, I don't really know what else to say. It just is more of the same. Like this chargering. That's why chargering is a verb, because this thing happens again and again and again. Yeah, I don't know what more there is to say that hasn't already been said.
I think
year after year.
Yeah, and I think the one evil twin, I guess, of the Chargers is the Steelers, and the Steelers have kind of Steelered their way to another 10-win season and another first-round exit. So we can hop into the Steelers-Ravens game. That I know it's only a 14-point gap, and that was the third closest game of the weekend. It was not a 14-point gap on the football field. The 28-14 is just an artifact of how football is scored. and the Ravens had the ball like inside the Steelers 20, but knelt the clock out. So it could have been 35-14, very like 2 plays. But I asked you earlier what the best drive in Rams history was. I have my answer for best drive in Ravens history, and it's the second touchdown drive. 13 runs, 0 passes against your rival in the playoffs. That is laying all of what you own on the table and saying, I am better than you.
That's the ultimate FU right there to your rival right there.
Yeah, that is to your number one rival, a team that has taken your lunch money the last 5 years, a team that has taken your lunch money in the playoffs, although not at M&T Bank Stadium, a team that has taken Lamar Jackson's lunch money, and you say, okay, put up or shut up time. We are going to run the ball 13 straight times. Stop us. The Steelers didn't feel like it. And it's just a very just convincing drive, and it just felt like every play. Why aren't you stopping the Ravens? Well, it's hard to stop Lamar. It's hard to stop Derrick Henry. It's hard to stop just how many times did Josh Jones come in as tackle eligible? How many times do you see 300-pound Pat Ricard blocking? How many times do you see, a pulling guard, right? You have 250-pound Derrick Henry in the backfield. You have an extra tackle who's 300 pounds. Daniel Falele, the right guard, is 375 pounds. We might as well put in Michael Pierce and have him play wide receiver because his hands are the best in football. Known CB1, Michael Pierce. Just a demoralizing drive, and that just felt the whole game was the Ravens just punching the Steelers in the mouth. It was like bow, 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 bow. Oh, little run for Lamar. Bow, bow, bow. Little run for Lamar. Bow, bow, bow. Likely over the middle. Bow, bow, bow. No Zay Flowers. It didn't matter, And just what a dominant performance for Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, that was the point I was gonna bring up too, Fogg. Is like I was on Dan's show not too long ago, and he was fuming over the fact that the Patriots let go of Jared Mayo after just one bad year where he was given a bad team versus Tomlin being able to stick around despite this again and again and again and again.
Right.
I think it's a fair conversation to have. I don't know if they'll do it because it's hard to find that kind of consistency within a head coach. But at the same time, he's a little too consistent in the fact that he's always getting taken out in the first round. So
yeah, it's my best comparison is like taking. Okay, this is very much like a Phillip Rivers on the Chargers, right? You to want to replace Rivers, which the Chargers eventually did, but if you want to replace Phillip Rivers, that's your goal. You want to replace Phillip Rivers. Okay, find a better option than Phillip Rivers. That's difficult. There's only 6 teams that can say, "Yep, we would rather have our quarterback than Phillip Rivers," right? And that's the Steelers situation. You're going to fall into is you want to be better than Tomlin, because if you're worse than Tomlin, the Marvin Lewis, it's like year after year after year, it's like the losing the first round. How many coaches are going to get you to the playoffs every year, right? And you have to elevate from a really good coach to a great coach. You have to elevate. If the Chargers ask this question, how many quarterbacks are better than Justin Herbert? There are 4 we are 100% certain are better than Justin Herbert. Okay, your odds of finding another guy better than Justin Herbert, not great. So I get it with Pittsburgh, and Tomlin's hit every spot on the spectrum to me, from underrated to overrated. He has been every iota of that line, right? He was overrated early. He was overrated with the Ben and AB and Le'Veon Bell. Now he's a little underrated. He elevates these rosters, but it's the catch-22 of you don't want to be in the middle, right? The being in the middle is the worst part of sports, frankly, because at least when you're bad, you can sell hope. At least when I know Bears fans and Jets fans might poke holes in that, but when you're bad, you can say, okay, at least next year will be better, right? If you're the Bears, maybe not the Bears, bad example this year, but you're the Panthers, right? You had a bad year, then you had another bad year. Now you're starting to turn the corner, right? If you just gone 7-10 every year like the Falcons did, like what are you trying to sell your team? Oh, we got to go get Kirk Cousins. Who's getting excited for Kirk Cousins? Be honest. So I understand, and like Tomlin's sort of on the hot seat, and if it was a different organization than Pittsburgh, he might have been fired already. But Pittsburgh has had 3 head coaches since 1970. Like, they don't make these moves, man. They had Chuck Noll for decades, and they had Cowher for decades, and now they've had Tomlin for basically 2 decades. Like, they don't make these moves. If it was the Browns, Tomlin would have been fired in 2009 after they missed the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, I cannot stand mediocrity in sports, honestly. I experience that, I feel like, with the Kings every year. When you're bad, you at least, and you have a bad year, you at least have like the optimism of not only, like you said, like next year will be better, but you get stuff like higher draft picks and things like that, or like you get like a weaker schedule. Like the 49ers, as much as I hate to say it, like next year is probably going to be better for them, not only injury wise, but like they'll have a last place schedule and they have a higher draft position.
Right.
But when you're in that spot of like, we were so close to making the playoffs, but we didn't get there, or something like that, you don't have a high draft choice. You don't have like, I don't know. It's like you're not really one way or the other, and you're just kind of stuck in that cycle. It can be hard to get out of that cycle of like, you don't have enough to like push yourself over the line to like being a true contender, but you're not going to get like the assets and things like that. I guess like a high draft pick or a worse or an easier schedule or something like that. That kind of thing doesn't come with big teams.
Right. And that was, to me, this is a big reason why I'll use the Ravens as an example. Harbaugh has 1 losing season as a coach. That catastrophic season netted them an all-pro left tackle in Ronnie Stanley. And better draft picks the rest of the board, by the way. It's not just 1 round you get a better draft pick. It's every round you get that higher draft pick. So that's cumulative there. And it also sends a wake-up call to the organization, like, last year wasn't good enough, we need to be better. If you're Pittsburgh, you can finesse your way when it gets to be June, July. You can finesse your way and say, hey, we won 10 games last year. What do we have to change? Like, we won 10 games. We made the playoffs. We just played a better team in the first round. Maybe the Ravens go on and win the Super Bowl. It's like, okay, we lost to, this awesome Ravens team in the first round. Okay, that happens. You can get complacent. All it takes, to me, is 1 bad season, and I think that can reignite this a great era of Steelers football that instead of picking in the late teens, early 20s, then you get the 10th pick in the draft, you get the 8th pick in the draft. Heaven forbid you get higher than that. Now, you don't want to be too bad. You don't want to lose every game, right? You don't want to go like 1-16 and have a black mark on your society or on your franchise forever, right? The Lions are never going to live 0-16 down. The Browns are never going to live 0-16 down. Heck, I would argue the Dolphins haven't lived 1-15 down. That still kind of haunts them moving forward. But if you go like 4-13 or 5-12, that's fine. Then you load up, get the 8th pick in the draft, the 40th pick in the draft, the 80th pick in the draft. You just load up, and that can really re-energize a franchise. And Pittsburgh did hit on TJ Watt at the end of the first round, and Cam Hayward was a late first round pick. But you do need some of these high end, like, blue chip guys. And even when the Ravens went 8-9 and got the number 14 pick back in 2022, they drafted an all-pro. Kyle Hamilton's been an all-pro twice, and they traded a first-round pick. They got another player. They got, a guy who was top 10 on a lot of boards, Tyler Linderbaum, and they added in 2 pieces of blue-chip talent, and they've won 25 games the last 2 years, 27 if you want to count the playoff games. Getting blue-chip talent matters. Not every pick is going to hit. You saw the Bengals. They missed on John Ross, who was a top 10 pick. They've missed on plenty of picks in this upper first-round range. The Browns have missed on dozens of picks. But if you're the Steelers, you just need a little bit more talent. You need an offensive version of TJ Watt, or even an offensive version of Cam Hayward. George Pickens is awesome. There's a reason he went in the second round. There's a reason he's not a top 5 receiver, top 8 receiver. There's a reason the Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase. He was the number 5 pick in the draft for a reason, right? draft pedigree ends up mattering at a point. And you also get the added benefit of your team knows it has issues. You have time to solve the issues. But if you go 10-7, you get complacent. I would know. My quarterback was Joe Flacco after they won the Super Bowl.
Complacency is not good. I hate it so much.
It's like they won 8 games every year, 8 or 9 games. You went through the Jeff Fisher Rams that you're not bad enough to get these high picks. You have to you have to trade your entire franchise to go get Jared Goff, right? Imagine the Steelers try to trade up for a quarterback this year, whether that's Shedeur or Cam Ward or whomever. How many picks are they going to have to give up moving from like 22 to 5? That's an absurd amount. But if you're already at 5, you don't have to trade anything. And all of your picks in later rounds, instead of having to trade them, they're the 5th pick in the 2nd round or what have you. So I think that's enough on Pittsburgh.
Of course, you can just solve all those problems by having a GM like Les Snead and just hit a home run on like every draft pick.
Yeah.
I'm mostly joking around there, but it does help.
F them picks.
F them picks.
Until you hit on all of them.
Exactly. What have we not talked about yet?
Just the middle game, Denver Buffalo. I guess the middle 2 games. The 2 and the 7s. I propose, instead of talking about these games, do we even like having the 7 seeds make the playoffs?
It's hard to say. Now, being a Rams fan, of course, I was a little bit upset because in 2019, we were the 7th seed.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2020, that's when they actually added the 7th seed to the playoffs. So,
yep.
I was a little bit bitter there.
Yeah.
But I kind of do, in a way. I think the reason why, not necessarily because like you obviously were probably going to talk about, the 7th seed, or the 7th seed is probably like an easy out in the first round.
The 7 seeds are 1-9, 8 losses by double digits. Now, I will say half of these are the Bills doing these things. So
thank you, Buffalo.
This is a Bills stat more than anything else.
Here's what I will say. The fact that they changed the 1 seed to be the only team that gets the bye, I think is good. Because it forces there to be a bit more competition for the 1 seed. You can't just you can't have a year where like you can be complacent with the 2 seed and like just give up early because there's no possible chance of catching up to the 1. It's like everybody is fighting for that 1 seed. It's like the seeding it doesn't work like this, but like it's kind of like the Vikings-Lions game at the end of the year. If they weren't in the same division, one of them, the loser of that game, would have been the 2 seed. But then under the old rules, both of those teams would have just gotten a bye. So it doesn't have the same stakes as it did this year, where it was like the team that wins is the 1 seed, and they don't have to play a game in the wild card round. The loser drops to the 5, and they have to play the wild card round. And the Vikings are out of the playoffs now. So, and that very much could have easily been Detroit. If Detroit loses that game, they got to play a wild card game against the Rams. The Rams have a realistic chance at beating them. So it's like, I feel like making the 1 seed more competitive and more coveted, I think is better for football.
That's a really good point. I agree with that. I think it's tough because you start asking yourself, is the 13th and 14th, are those teams good enough to win the Super Bowl? And I think we can have this sort of back and forth with like yes and no, right? We've seen 6 seeds win the Super Bowl before. The Packers in 2010 won as a 6 seed. Other wild cards have won in the past. The 05 Steelers, the 80 Raiders, the 07 Giants were a 5 seed. There's the occasional, wild card team that makes a run, but you can't have that be the norm, right? The Kings, for example, winning the Stanley Cup as an 8 seed, that is an outlier. The Heat going to the finals as an 8 seed is an outlier. The Knicks, I think, made it as an 8 seed one year. That's an outlier. The Nuggets pulling that famous upset over Sean Kemp and company, that's an outlier. So you have to kind of balance it. Do you want it to be like the top 12 teams, like it had been for a while? Do you want it to be do you want the playoffs to be smaller, like even smaller than 12? I don't know, but
I don't know about that.
Do we need the Broncos in the playoffs this year? I don't know, right? Do we need the Packers? The Packers I thought were a fair inclusion, but the Commanders, Packers, like that going into week 18, that was a battle. Like if Washington wins, they get the 6th seed. The Packers need a win and a Commanders loss to get the 6th seed, and ends up the Commanders pull the game out of their butt, and the Packers lose on a last-second field goal. So that was a fun exchange, but no one seemed to care because it was for a 6th seed versus a 7th seed, as opposed to in the playoffs versus out of the playoffs. So these 7-2 games drag though. Like they're not. Only one has been a win for the 7th seed, and that's not always a bad thing, but none of them, that's the only one that's been particularly competitive. Although the Skylar Thompson game was competitive, but that's Bills' incompetence more than, yes, we get to watch the Miami Dolphins today.
Yeah. It's a tough call. And I think it just depends on the team too. Like sometimes a team like, I'm pretty sure the 49ers in 2021 were the 7th seed. Or maybe they were the 6th, I don't remember. But I know that the situation they were in that week was they either win or they're out, and they won because the Rams forgot how to play football in the second half. So
who was the 7th seed? Oh, that was the Eagles. That was Bucks Eagles. That's right.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
That was just a total beatdown.
Yeah, that's another example of the 7th seed just being a total beatdown. But I don't know. I do like how it does create games like that, but at the end of the day, I understand the perspective too of like, okay, that was fun to watch that battle, but like maybe a less deserving team got in because of it, and now this team is just going to get wiped in the first round. So
right, yeah,
I think there are pros and cons to it.
I do like having just one bye. That's something good to strive for, because home field advantage, while that is an advantage, I think teams would probably rather have the game off. Like that's the bigger advantage. Like the double advantage the Chiefs and the Lions get this year is they get home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and they get a bye. I think teams, if you could only choose one, would probably take the bye over home field advantage.
I would take the bye for sure.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like that's why teams like sometimes will like make the sacrifice with resting starters too, if the situation allows. Because I'll give you the Rams this year as an example. I don't think everybody was really 100% going into that week 18 game against Seattle. Like Stafford, he probably needed a week to rest because of all the big hits he takes during games. Cooper Kupp, I mentioned the leg. Puka Nacua even probably could have used it a little bit too. And you see the amount of snaps Kyren Williams gets every week, so he definitely could use a rest. And thankfully, the Rams have that luxury. They don't get that luxury, though, if the game against Seattle, they don't get that strength of victory tiebreaker, so they have to play their starters against Seattle. Maybe even if they were to win that game and make the playoffs, you get to the wild card round and your offense really isn't as rested to do as much damage as they ended up doing in that game. The fact that they were able to rest starters helped.
Right.
So,
yeah, and I don't think either of the 2-7 games this year were particularly intriguing.
No.
The Packers, I think, were like a legitimate playoff team, and this is a case of like in the 12-team format. That would have been like maybe we wish we could have seen them in the playoffs. Washington won, so it ended up being moot. But I would have watched a Packers-Bucks game. That would have been a fun game. I don't think a Broncos-Ravens, I don't know how fun that would have been. Granted, the Ravens did beat them by 31 the first time, so that's part of the reasoning there. But I think the Packers at least were a worthy playoff team. They won 11 games. But the Broncos, great season for them.
We had been saying all year, don't let Sean Payton into the playoffs, but then we saw that they were going to get up against Buffalo in round one, and it was like, all right, well.
Not ideal, man. They kind of got the tar. They had one nice drive. I will give them that. But
they did. They opened the game hot, and I was thinking, maybe they got a chance.
Like,
and then
I don't know.
Josh Allen
they held Buffalo to a couple field goals, a couple short drives. It's like, who knows? They had the fake punt. It's like, who knows? And then it was.
Take it from experience, Denver fans. You are never going to keep Josh Allen down the whole game. At some point,
the Ravens did it one time.
This year.
Yeah, this year they did it one time. They beat them by 25.
For the most part, it's gonna be very, very, very hard to do that to Josh Allen. Like at some point, like I was sitting there watching the Rams game against Buffalo, going, please run up the score as much as you can, because at some point Josh Allen is gonna do Josh Allen things, and your defense is not gonna stop him. And
he's gonna get his.
Yeah, that pretty much is what happens. It was a 2-point game. Although I think they scored a touchdown, or no, they didn't. It wasn't them scoring a touchdown too early. It was they ran a sneak play at the 1 yard line that got stopped, so they had to burn a timeout, and it screwed them.
That's right. Yeah, I don't think there's much to talk about with those games. Philly, the Packers fumbled the opening kickoff. I don't know if that was actually a fumble, but they fumbled the opening kickoff. The Eagles score like 3 plays later. It's like, okay, this game's over. Good job, Jalen. AJ Brown. This is the one talking point. AJ Brown was reading a book on the sidelines.
Oh my God, yeah, I remember this.
It was like Inner Excellence or whatever the heck the book is called. It was in the 500,000s on Amazon. You wake up the next morning, it's #1 on Amazon.
People are weird with this sort of thing, man.
Eagles fans, man,
they buy in. Sports fans in general, though, like this wouldn't be the first time I would think, like, if this was any other fan base too, like Buffalo fans would probably do the same thing.
Yeah,
or like somebody would like say this comment that exploded overnight, and like their jersey would be the #1 selling.
Yeah, like jersey. Obviously this is a very different situation, but Damar Hamlin, like his charity went bananas. His jersey sales went bananas.
I donated to his charity. It was a good cause.
Yeah, like AJ Brown over here. I have this theory. I think I've said it on the show before. The only normal receiver is Devontae Smith. The only, like, everyone else, all other receivers have some like screw missing.
Puka Nacua, I'm convinced, has at least 1 or 2. It took him until the middle of this year to learn that the Rams played in the NFC West. I am convinced that man is, and he's like in the middle of like this generational performance against Buffalo, and he's like, he tweeted after the game that he had a random thought on the sideline.
The necklaces,
the necklaces, right? Like that's or whatever that was, and he was just thinking about that in the middle. He was like, I wonder who invented them and where this guy is. And I'm like, that's your thought as you're putting up generational numbers in a game against the arguable must-win game against a contender like Buffalo. And that's what you're thinking. Oh my God, this guy, he only knows catch the ball and score.
Yeah, like every receiver is like some deviation of strange. Now some of this, like George Pickens is fighting opponents, right? DK Metcalf likes to fight people. DK Metcalf learned sign language to taunt his opponents. And then Devontae Smith is like, if your coworker from work just showed up in the NFL and was a top 5 route runner, it was like, it's great. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go home and like pet my cat or whatever. Wide receivers are a whack.
That's like kickers and punters. Like they don't do the full bulk of practice or anything like that. They have their own routines and everything. So they probably, it's like Justin Tucker being, I almost said Justin Herbert. Justin Tucker being an opera singer. He could just casually do that, or like just other stuff like that. Other like talents. I'm curious what kind of like hidden talents other players have.
Yeah,
that have nothing to do with like.
Oh my goodness, we didn't even mention our Lord and Savior Xavier Legette, the funniest man in the NFL. Oh my goodness, I can't even understand what Xavier Legette is saying.
Kobe Turner for the Rams. He sung the national anthem at a Kings game, and I think he did it at a Lakers game too. What he can sing.
Is it as good as Adam Wainwright singing the national anthem before his final ever game? I don't know. Also, shout out to Keon Coleman. He's quite the personality, Buffalo receiver. Just lots of personality at the wide receiver position. I love it.
I love it too.
All right, let's take a look. These NFL playoffs the rest of the way. Let's do the thing.
I'm actually going to switch to night mode because a bit of a flashbang right there. All right, I've already selected. This is the playoff predictor website, so I've already gone ahead and selected the winners from each of the wild card games this year. So the matchups are accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Splash, I will let you do this first, and then I will chime in with my predictions.
All right. So Chiefs over Texans. That's the 4:30 game on tomorrow. Bang, bang, bang. I also have the Lions over the Commanders. That could be a very fun one. I have the Lions. Then the 3:00 game on Sunday. I have the Eagles over the Rams. They played earlier. Eagles kind of took them to town. Ravens Bills, man. This has game of the year potential.
That one. I can't pick it.
I can't pick it either. ESPN FPI can't predict it. It was 50-50 last time I checked. 50.0 to 50.0. The spread is, it was Buffalo -1. Now it's Ravens -1. Ravens -1.5. And I think Baltimore wins it. I think Baltimore does win it. And I do want to point out, Bills fans, when you have the whole song and dance with the Josh Allen as league MVP and you have the Pro Bowlers comments, the Bills only had 2 Pro Bowlers, and the All-Pro comments that Josh Allen is the Bills only All-Pro, and then you flip it around and you're like, oh, we're getting disrespected. Well, you're trying to have your cake and eat it too. You're trying to tell me that Josh Allen is valuable because he doesn't have the kind of talent Lamar has around him. And then like you say that to boost his MVP stuff, and then when you don't have an All-Pro, then you act like your team's getting disrespected. I agree, actually. I agree that Christian Benford should have been an All-Pro, and I actually think a lot of the Ravens All-Pros and Pro Bowls weren't quite deserving. And keep in mind that one of the All-Pros is a fullback, and I don't even think the Bills employ a fullback, and if they do, he played like 200 snaps this season. So Bills fans, get over yourselves, please. If you wanted to be consistent with last year's MVP logic, the answer is not Josh Allen, by the way. The answer would be Patrick Mahomes, because Patrick Mahomes did, in fact, win the 1 seed, like Lamar did last year, and like Lamar did in 2019, and like Mahomes did in 2022, and like Mahomes did in 2018, and like Rodgers did in 2020, and like Rodgers did in 2021. Can we be serious for a moment here, Bills fans? Okay, those are my picks.
Okay. I am probably in agreement with you, honestly, across the board. Maybe I take Buffalo, but I don't really know. That's like the most impossible game to predict. So like I could very easily be wrong.
Yeah. That's a 50-50 game. I don't know, man.
I wish Rams Eagles was 50-50. I'll tell you how I think the Rams can win this game though. I forget their names off the top of my. I think it was Nakobe Dean and Brandon Graham.
Yeah, Nakobe Dean's hurt.
Yeah, both of those guys were. The last time the Eagles played the Rams were like the big game wreckers for the Eagles, and neither of them were playing in this one. The Rams were also not fully healthy. They were missing Rob Havenstein. They were missing Tyler Higbee. I think there was one other name that they were missing, and then Akella Witherspoon. I've been high on him this year. He didn't play until late in that game, and I feel like the Rams are a whole lot better team now than they were last time they played the Eagles. I'm not saying the Eagles are bad, but they are missing those names that really took over that game against the Rams. But the Rams are healthier. They have figured their shit out. They are very, very, very good. Sean McVay is very good at learning from his mistakes. So I think that, especially if they're able to get the run game going too, I'm not going to really speak towards the pass game because, again, the snow forecast doesn't help the Rams at all in the slightest. But
yeah,
I don't want to rule them out either. I think the players are also super motivated too by the trash talk. Like Jared Verse already went and said he hates Eagles fans.
Yeah. Eagles fans be wild, and bro.
They are pretty wild. Yeah.
I respect it.
They like to yap a lot.
They do.
And even when they're wrong, even when their team gets their asses kicked, they still yap.
This is Philly fans in general. Sixers fans, Phillies
Yeah.
is in the baseball team. They do the same thing. Flyers fans, I'm sure.
The absolute war that I saw that we witnessed these last few years with the Niners and the Eagles, especially the NFC Championship game too. Oh my God, I don't know which
cinema right there. Cinema.
I don't know if my heart could tolerate an Eagles or Lions winning the Super Bowl this year, but looking at this prediction right now, maybe I can tolerate Detroit. Yeah. Their fans were annoying for a little while, but If we get a rematch, they'll probably be annoying again too. But I think they've kind of toned that.
That's
down
I mean
as of late.
that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, that's just is what it is. Like every fan base has bad apples. Like even the Rams fan base. There are. I've interacted with some Rams fans that I don't.
Yeah. Oh
love,
God.
but-
Some Ravens fan. There's one of the media personalities in Baltimore. I'm blanking on his name, but he said something like Buffalo is the city of losers. It's like, okay, can we relax?
Yeah.
Like I.
There
There are
that's
plenty
the
of
thing I'll
nice
say
people in
too.
Buffalo. They have a great football team right now.
Good.
Relax.
Buffalo Bills fans are like they're aggressive about their team. I
Uh-huh.
say that because they love to jump through folding tables too. But you see the amount of like charities and things that they donate to.
Uh-huh.
Like I'm pretty sure they they donated like crazy to I know you don't love talking about this, but the
Andy
Bengals,
Dalton fund,
Andy
yeah.
Dalton, like they sent him wings and everything when their win clinched them a playoff spot.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that their fan base does. It's like you can't hate them.
Mhm.
Like I respect them for being like as aggressively like they're like good aggressive. Like they care about their team. They're super passionate about their team,
Mhm.
but they also realize that
It's bigger than sports.
every day in general is bigger than sports. At the end of the day, everybody's human. Everybody's sports teams have their up and downs and everything like that they go through, and it's like when a fan base can realize that and not be total dicks, then I think everybody can have an easier time getting along.
Mhm.
So I feel like Eagles fans have kind of taken it to the extreme as of late, where it's like they think football is the end all be all.
Mhm.
It's not hard to just be a decent person. It's not. Like maybe like the points that I was making on Twitter the other day about like the play that went wrong, the play whatever, something like that. Like the Eagles were allowed like to get their play back even though the Rams already snapped the ball, whatever it is. All I was saying was that it's a bad rule and people are now attacking my intelligence.
Yeah.
Like,
Welcome to the internet, Jack.
I know, right? Like it's nothing new for me. Trust me.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Like
I've been like wanting to get back into NFL Twitter, but it's so toxic.
it is
Like the Lamar Allen stuff. Like you're not changing anyone's opinion. Votes are locked in. They were locked in 3 weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago now. Like you're not changing people's opinions. You're not like, what's the point? I've wanted to do this Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen MVP discourse, and it's I've talked about some of the talking points that are just really stupid to me, like the Pro Bowls and all pro things. Like half of the Ravens Pro Bowlers don't deserve to be Pro Bowlers anyways. So what are we doing? But man, it just wears you out after a little bit. So.
Yeah, it does. I got worn out by it a little bit yesterday too. I just never admit when I'm worn out. I just
right.
Like you just say that you're done giving them the time. That's what I said yesterday. I was like, I'm done giving you the time of day. You've been attacking me all day long. Go outside. That was my
touch grass.
Touch grass.
Yeah, touch grass. All right. Conference championships. I have the Eagles over Detroit. I don't know how controversial that is. I think the Eagles will be able to run all over Detroit.
Oh my god. You know what? To keep my sanity going. Eagles, Ravens. That's my pick in this.
Oh god. Okay.
I'm hurting yours.
Okay.
I do not need another Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl. I don't.
Fair enough.
Not even like that's not even a hatred thing for either team. It's like we already saw that.
Yeah, we just
don't
got a
need
Chiefs
another.
Niners rematch.
We just got a Niners Chiefs rematch. We don't need another freaking rematch.
Oh man.
The Lions could beat the Eagles too. It's possible. It's very possible.
I could see that. I would actively pick the Eagles. I would actively bet on the Eagles. I would not bet on Ravens Chiefs. I don't know, man. That game freaks me out.
I feel like I'm
Andy
murdering
Reid
your sanity there.
owns John Harbaugh. This is like decade of ownership here. Decade plus of ownership. I guess Harbaugh beat Reid in 2008 and I think 12 when Reid was on the Eagles. But since Reid's moved to Kansas City, it's been a demolition. The only win was the Sunday night game. But yeah, I don't know. Reid just puts Harbaugh in a bind And I don't get it. It's like, I know Lamar stinks against the Chiefs. I get that. The defense doesn't play quite as well. And Mahomes is freaking Patrick Mahomes. So that's always on the table. But yeah, I don't know. It's a goofy spot. I could see Baltimore winning that game. I could see Buffalo beating both Baltimore and Kansas City. I, of course, can see the Chiefs back in the Super Bowl. I think the world really needs a Ravens-Lions Super Bowl.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I don't know. I do think Baltimore has a fighter's chance against Philly. I know Philly beat them the first time. Baltimore's defense was awesome in that game. Tucker missed a couple kicks and just kind of threw off the vibes. And Philly's really good. This is not discounting Philly. I just think that was kind of a game that could have been a great game, but Baltimore had a couple miscues, and it was just kind of looked like, okay, this isn't Baltimore's day. Philly showed up. Philly played well, but Baltimore didn't really show up. They failed for a quarter, and I don't know. It's like two kids in a class. Like, you're going for, both of you are trying to get an A, and one of you forgets to turn in a homework assignment. It's like, yeah, okay, they're equal basically the rest of the way. The person that lost by a little bit forgot to turn in a homework assignment as well. So it's like, okay. So Eagles get an A, the Ravens end up with a B that good day. So I don't know. I could see it. That would be a great Super Bowl. I think if that's the Final Four, I think any potential Super Bowl would be a great one. And I think it also applies that the Bills are in there. I would extend it to the Rams too. The Commanders and Texans, I think, are a little too one-sided for them to have great games against everybody, though.
Yeah, I agree. My heart wants a Rams-Commanders NFC title game because that would be at SoFi. So,
and it would be the 14th different opponent Sean McVay's played in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's a weird stat that we found this week, is that Sean McVay has played 13 playoff games as the head coach of the Rams, and no two of them have been against the same opponent. So, just really interesting stuff. Although it's potentially trending Detroit. That could be Detroit if they beat Philadelphia, but they're going to. Which
unfortunately would not be. That would be a rematch of last year's wild card game.
Yeah. Falco, you're right. Rams Chiefs for Super Bowl. We still need to get a legitimate Rams Chiefs rematch because the last one we got, the Rams were hurt, so they had freaking. Who was their quarterback in that game? It was like some third string guy.
Or was it Bryce Perkins, right?
Yeah, it was Bryce Perkins. He was the starter for that game. Yeah.
Whew. Dang.
Yeah, that is what it's been like.
To be like that.
So I'm hopeful that one day we'll get the next time we get a Rams Chiefs rematch, it will be like both sides are healthy.
Mm-hmm. That would be a fun week one game.
The odds that we are going to get another 105-point game are low, but
yeah. Do you guys play them next year?
I don't believe we do. I think 2 years ago in 2022 is when we last played the whole.
Wait. You guys play? Yeah, you guys played the Raiders this year, so it'd be a 2-year wait. Okay, my bad.
You know what we get next year is we get the Bird Gauntlet.
Yes, you do.
Every game is on the road, but we get the Bird Gauntlet.
Okay, so, and the Ravens get to.
That'll be that's watch party material for this channel.
Yeah, that is 100% watch party material. Because the last two were really good. The one, of course, before that was just Lamar being Lamar. The last two, one went to the Ravens, one went to the Rams. Both of those were awesome games, like borderline game of the year material. Hopefully, it's Lamar versus Stafford. That would absolutely be awesome.
Yeah, I'm still bitter about a punt return being the thing that decided that last game, but It is what it is.
That was a great game.
I'm glad that the most recent 2 games between the Rams and Ravens have not been something that was decided by like a blowout. Like no more Jackson 5 or any crap like that. Like we had good games between our two teams. So. We take those.
Yeah, we do take those. All right. We are rooting for good football this weekend. We are rooting for a Rams win. We are rooting for a Ravens win. Be nice to other people, too.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be a dick. It's easy to just be nice and be a legitimately like good, respectable fan base. Well, I don't know about a fan base as a whole, but that's the wrong. Not doing tiers right now, unfortunately.
That'd
by
be
the way,
tier list.
Have you seen the? Before we close up, because I think we're kind of running out of time here, but
yeah,
have you seen the the Stadium Series jerseys between the Red Wings and Blue Jackets.
Negative.
That's
right.
where I mentioned to you. I was like,
Show me right now. You can pull it up. Let me know when they're on the screen.
NHL. You don't have to cover your eyes because I have the screen share thing.
Okay.
Yeah, the Stadium Series is between the Detroit Red Wings and the Columbus Blue Jackets this year. Are going to be played at the Shoe, I believe, or whatever that stadium's called. Where Ohio football
State.
Plays. Yeah,
Ohio State.
And they are like universally like enjoyed. Like I think a lot of people really like these jerseys.
Oh boy, the Red Wings, famously, if you are a longtime Sports Desk listener, I am a Red Wings fan. I love the Red Wings. Go Red Wings. They have abominations for third and beyond jerseys. The home and away are great, like classic, timeless, whatever adjective you want to use.
I am not gonna lie. I think they killed this one, like in a good way. Here we go.
I want to see it. Ooh. Okay. I see the vision.
First of all, the helmet is a W. I love the wings on the helmets. I
like the Eagles or Michigan football.
Hockey helmets are so bland these days. They are single colors, and that's it. I don't even care that they put a stripe on it. I think hockey helmets need stuff like this. And what the Red Wings did is perfect. And then you have the cannon as the crest on the Blue Jacket. Oh my god.
Beautiful. Okay, I don't know if it's the best, but the top freaking tier is the Blue Jackets. Every Civil War themed jersey they do slaps. Like, just I love the alternate logos they have. It just eternal slaps. I know it's not like, maybe they did a retro reverse with that, even though they're only like 25 years old, but it's just a gorgeous uniform.
Yeah.
I always, when I would play NHL, I would always toggle them over to that one.
I would always do like the Stadium Series jerseys for the Kings.
Mm-hmm. And the Red Wings, it's just the red or white every single time. So I end up not playing with the Red Wings very much because it's the same jersey every time.
Yeah, but I think that this is a good call for Detroit too, because they just go. It just says Detroit, and the script looks nice. Mm-hmm. It's solid. It's perfectly solid for a team that only uses two colors and has a history of bland alternates. I feel like this
definitely the best alternate. That's like a solid A tier to me.
Yeah. So there you go. I told you they finally have an alternate uniform that is not bad.
Beautiful, and the Columbus ones are out of this world.
I love the Ohio patch for the A or the C for the captains. The CBJ shoulder patch logo is solid too, and then the cannon, like that should be their secondary logo. Honestly,
yeah, those are gorgeous.
I love the cannon.
Good job.
Well done, NHL.
Great job, both teams. By the way, great job. All right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Anything else, Jack?
I think that's it. We touched on Sasaki. We touched on the playoffs. We got our predictions in there.
Okay. Here, I know this is the wrong LA team for you. The Clippers beat the Nets by 59 points.
Oh yeah, that happened. Yeah, I laughed.
59, bro. I might retire after that one. That's the largest loss in the history of the Nets. That's the fewest points they've scored as a Brooklyn affiliate. But just what are we doing? Also, the Cavs got boat raced yesterday by the Thunder. Hate to see it. But they're like 30-5, so it's like, okay, one bad day at the office every once in a while is okay. Alrighty. I think that'll wrap us up for today.
Yeah, I think so. Not a whole lot.
If you want more from us, our socials are down below. I'm at Mr. Splashman19. Jack is at Starblade125. And you can find our general doings at Sports Desk 99.
Indeed. A whole lot goes on there, so we will occasionally go on a spree of tweeting stats, or like I will tweet immediate reactions to things that happen in sports. So I'm
giving you the forward pass right now.
There you go, the forward pass. I that's what I do on my profile, but yeah. All right, so that's gonna wrap us up for this week. I believe episode 105. So thank you guys so much for joining us here today. Subscribe to the channel, Scoreboard Watch, ring a ding ding, the Le'Veon bell, notification bell. What else am I forgetting? Subscribe, like the video, tell your friends, share it.
Comment. What's something to comment? Comment your least favorite fruit.
Sure.
We want, as sports fans, we want you to be positive and respectful. As fruit fans, you can be as disrespectful as you want.
Sure.
See what your worst fruit is. I don't like pineapple. I don't know if it's the worst. I'm not a big fan of pineapple.
I heard someone was complaining about durians earlier today because they smell.
Ah, that'll do it.
Yeah, they're like the giant spiky fruit. They're like hard, but then then you cut them open and they smell disgusting. So,
oh god.
Yeah,
the spiky fruits will get you. I do like dragon fruit though. That's top tier.
All right. With that being said, comment below fruits. And as always, Super Bowl champion Aaron Donald trains with knives. We will see you guys next week. Thank you very much for watching.